everyone. I'm about to open up the chat bar on the side. Please, once again, comment. Tell us what y'all want. Tell us who you guys would like to hear from. You know, that's something that's really big too. We want to hear from the crew to make sure that we're giving you guys the proper stories and the proper exposure to the proper talent. I think that this is really all about showing people that there's a lot of different ways to get money within the culture, within the music business. So I just want to kind of offer you guys exposure and let people tell their stories. I've personally learned a lot from reading biographies and just studying other people's stories. So once again, Malachi and Roger Alexander.
What's going on,
guys?
What's up, brother?
Malachi, what's going on, bro?
Man, it's been a long little road.
Yeah, it has. How's that quarantine treating you, man?
It's treating me okay, man. Staying diligent, staying safe, and it's a process.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I feel like we first met, Roger and I. We first met in Kansas City, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Back
and
when we was both grinding.
Yeah, we was both grinding. It was an interesting time, and it is good to see like where that growth has come. And I know you're originally from Houston, but I met you
Right.
in Kansas City, and now you're here.
You actually played a big role in me moving to Atlanta, man. I don't know if you know that, but I remember having a conversation with you. We talked about like, yeah, man, I'm gonna move out to LA and blah blah blah. And you were like, I don't know, bro. Like Atlanta is kind of where it's at right now. And I checked it out, and I was like, dang, yeah, like it really is.
Yeah, and I'm glad you made that choice because I feel like it is a place where you can thrive. I consider it to be like it's the Mecca, as a lot of people would attribute it to be. And I just love the camaraderie between people, and you're able to just being able to work with people is really easy here too. So
Right.
yeah, I'm glad that advice was taken, and you ran with it. You put it in the ball. You
Yeah,
ran with
man.
it, man. But so this platform is good that we started. We just heard from Jason. He's the founder of Heavy Sound Labs. And so, the team has really been building out a community of just like, music artists, A&Rs, creative entrepreneurs, and, anybody that's really just trying to figure it out. And so, I feel like you're a good person to talk to, for that inspiring creative that is looking to get their feet wet. Maybe they've been in the industry for a while. But some people just need guidance. But it's gonna be good to hear from someone like you to understand the process and understand how your thought process. So let's get into that, man. So like, what is that creative process? I know you just dropped the music video with Meek Mill
Yeah,
and
man.
all that. One of the questions that I always get is just like, does it really matter about the budget, right? And of course, like when you're having,
To a certain extent.
yeah, when with a certain extent, and then having the music video budgets, but then also it comes down to the creative treatments, and then from there. So like, kind of walk us through like that process of getting that music video, and then breaking down the budget, and then the type of team that you need to create it, and we can go
Right.
from there.
So the process is it kind of depends on the type of client that you're working with. So I mean, I work with clients who have a big label and dealing with Sony or Epic or Universal, and there's a certain streamlined process with that. And then there's also a lot of independence in the game now too, where recently within the past this last decade, I would say there's a surgence of independents who are doing their thing without these major labels. And those are usually a little bit easier. With the labels, you kind of have more hoops to jump through as far as like formalities, legalities, paperwork, those type of things. But I can say from a label standpoint, there's two type of ways. If you already have a really great relationship with an artist, sometimes they will already lock you in as the director, and then you guys just have to figure out a concept, which is always the best thing to do. The more that you work in this industry, you realize like being good at what you do literally is only 50% of the job. the other 50% is having the right networks, having the right relationships with people, because the best directors, like as far as craft, aren't always the ones who are getting the big jobs or getting the big budgets or whatever the case may be. There's so much things involved with politics, and you know, I hung out with so and so a while ago and they like me better than this director, even though that director might be craft wise better than you are. So it's just it's not, there's not a clear cut this is how you're going to get the job, because there's so many factors that go into it. But I can tell you, out of all those factors, the most important one out of all of that is having a positive relationship with the decision makers who are behind the scenes. And so the first step is figuring out who those decision makers are. So as I was transitioning to try to get these bigger label jobs, I had to figure out who the commissioners were. So the commissioners are like the middlemen between the director and the label. And they are, when the artist has a song and the label says, here's a single, we want to shoot a video to this, the commissioner goes out and basically samples a bunch of different directors and sends out the music and gets treatments back. So these directors will write a treatment and then they submit it to the label, and then the label and the artist will review all of the treatments and basically choose which treatment they like the best. And then they will award, is the word, they'll award the treatment to that director. And then they'll start the process.
I do have a quick question, right? So it's like, you know, once you do get the song, you get awarded it. Like, how do you process like the song and starting the creative process for the treatment? Do you like, is there a certain area like that you vibe out to the music, and like, you know, like how do you really typically like, you know, grab that song and then figure out like creatively how you're gonna approach it?
Right. So there's two things. One, I keep like what I call my inspiration notebook. So I watch a lot of music videos. I go to a lot of art shows. I try to take in as many artistic things as possible. And if I see something that stands out to me, like if I see a frame in a music video that's really dope, I'll take a screenshot of it. And I just keep this long going list of like dope stuff. And I categorize each of those things. So like for me, most scenes or music videos fall into like a few different categories. So in this notebook, I'll have a page for each category, like dark and moody, or pop, colorful, bright, or really sad or rough and gritty, like street trap type stuff. So I'll take all of these pictures and categorize them in this book. So then whenever it comes to me to start listening to a song, first, I'll just listen to it and see if anything comes to my head immediately. There's certain songs that it's kind of hard to explain, like immediately just things just start coming to you and you just start typing away like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And then other songs you might have writer's block. You might not have anything that comes to you immediately. So then that's when I go to the inspiration book. I start listening to the song. I just start scrolling through like all of these different pictures, seeing if one of these pictures is gonna spark an idea in my head, like, oh, dang, it was dope when they did this in this video. Maybe we can change it up a little bit. And that's the thing about creativity. Really, to be honest with you, there's nothing in the world that hasn't been done. Like everything, there's nothing that's truly original at this point. So really, a lot. Right. So really it's taking a small piece here, taking a small piece here, putting stuff together and putting your own spin on it to make it your own. Don't necessarily copy something exactly that somebody else did, because I mean, somebody's going to recognize that. If you copy the exact same thing, I mean, people are going to be in the comments and they're going to eat you up. Didn't they do this in the such and such video? So,
right.
Always make sure.
Like, even if you think about, not interrupt, but even if you think about in music, right? Like people sample music. It's a vibe. It's a certain story that you're trying to tell. Right. And, you know, even with just like imagery, right? So it's just like those key things that you grab, like you've organized and categorize it, so where when you do find that piece of music that matches this specific imagery, then you're able to apply it within your creative treatment and exactly. present that to whatever the client is, right? Exactly. So yeah, that's inspiration is by everyone. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, just kind of going off of what you said, that's why I categorize the pictures, because I used to just throw everything together in a big like group, but it became more efficient for me to group those pictures. So if I hear a song that's like slow, it's got like low melodies and things like that, you feel like an emotional mood type of sense to that. So I am not immediately know whenever I'm going through my inspiration book, I'm not looking at the colorful, bright, poppy stuff because it doesn't go with the emotions that you feel with listening to that song. So yeah, that it's part of that. And then, you know, sometimes I also will ask some of the people on my team because different people's brains work differently. So for me, it's better for me to have input from a bunch of different directions. Like some of my team members and the people that I work with on a daily basis, I'll be like, I'll put my ideas together, but then I also send or I have him listen to it and be like, yo, you know, what do you see to this? And his brain might see something completely different. Like, yo, that's a dope idea, blah, blah, blah. We'll put it all together. And so sometimes the final product can be input from not just me, but like other people on my team who have contributed things. And you see this in music too. I mean, producers, you know, Kanye West has said it himself whenever he's creating a beat. Sometimes he has other producers in the room who are also saying, yo, this key might be dope here or whatever. And, you know, you might start off being kind of, don't be egotistical into thinking like, it's just me, it's only me, blah, blah, blah. Like you might be able to get the job done yourself, but you can be so much better and more efficient by multiplying your brains and having a team of people who can put stuff together.
Better than one.
Exactly. So you know, that's helped out a lot too, is just me transitioning. A lot of us when we start out are like the lone wolf, right? Where we're doing everything. We're the director, we're the DP, we're the editor, we're the grip, the gaffer, the every single piece of the puzzle. And
Right.
it's good to start out like that, because then you know all of the positions to where later down the line, if somewhere is slacking or if you're missing something, like I know how to be a grip and set up these stands if I need to, you know what I'm saying? And so you'll always make sure that the job is getting done. But as you move up and start trying to do these bigger jobs, you realize that you're more efficient with having a team and delegating jobs out to other people and letting them specialize in that thing so you can specialize on what's most important if you're the director, and making sure you're getting the best shot possible.
Now, just to bring it back, dial it back to the basics, right? Do you feel like it's important for like some of the up and coming people just to PA and, you know, kind of understand how set works? You know,
Yes.
because like I know, I mean, you know, I started from the bottom. I learned how, you know, I learned the process of being a PA, and then from there that grew into some, you know, it grew into being a director, right? And
Right.
you know, other positions that are available. So I felt like, you know, having that basis is good, you know.
100%, man. I mean, I tell people like humility in this industry is so important. Like until you're winning like MTV, VMA, like it's levels to this. You know what I'm saying? Like no matter how great you think you are, there's always another level that you could improve on and get better. Even with the awards that I've won and the success that I've had, I still will go to a set that's, you know, in a higher tier budget range than what I'm currently doing, and I'll go there and I'll be a PA because I'm still soaking up information. Like always be a learner. You know what I'm saying? Like always learn something new every day. Like let me put it like this. So when I first moved to Atlanta, like you knew I was already had been shooting for like 4 or 5 years. Like in Kansas City, I won a bunch of awards there. And so when I moved to Atlanta, I was the new guy here. Not anybody knew me. So to Atlanta, I was still like, you know, a little dude. Like no, I hadn't made a name for myself, whatever. Even though from where I came from, I had already done big stuff there. But when I came to Atlanta, it was more important for me to soak up game here, as far as like learning the market here, the culture here, how people move, how they work, who is who. So look, I was on set playing play and pause on the iPod. You know what I'm saying? Like the lowest level that you could be, even though I had awards.
Hey, but that's an important role though.
It's an important role, but I was like I was running errands and stuff. Like I was doing like the lowest level stuff on set. But to me, it was more important to just kind of soak up game and like just get acclimated to the climate here and see how people work. And so, you know, I say that to say like you have to be able to humble yourself, and know what's more important in that situation. To me, it was more important to keep learning, to keep growing, to keep getting bigger. And so I would go to sets that were doing bigger stuff that I was at that time, and just volunteering my time and my services so I could learn. And sometimes I still do that. You know what I'm saying? So
Hey,
don't ever think you're too big to like help somebody out.
definitely. Let's talk. Because I outside of just being a director too, you're also a DP, right?
Right.
So I don't know. You own a few Reds.
Mhm.
What camera like? Because people talk about the tools, and sometimes
Right.
it's really just the tools that you have. And I think
Mhm.
like even within this quarantine, right? It's been a challenge for people who aren't able to like go out and film and shoot. And so really with just even basically like a web camera and being able to use that. So
Right.
like what can you talk about in terms of some of the tools that are being used on in film? Like, and because like I know like specifically for like Netflix, they do require like a certain caliber of camera. But what
Right.
tools do you use?
So I want to, before I get into that, I want to preface with there's there's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot that says your gear doesn't matter. And I would say that's true, but it's also not true because it depends on the context that you're using it. It's true in the sense of, yes, in 2020 there's so many non-expensive like DSLRs and things like that. Like the technology has grown so fast now to where you can use, non-top tier gear and get a good end product. Granted that if you have everything else in place, like obviously, so when you look at an image and you're trying to figure out what makes it top quality, what makes it cinematic, right?
Right.
So you might say lenses or lighting or framing or composition, or there's a million different factors that go into that end product, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if all of those other things besides your gear are good, then yes, your camera in that sense doesn't matter, because if you have a GH4 or Canon 7 or whatever, technology is good enough to where if your lighting is great, your composition is great, it can look like a cinematic image. Where it does matter is as you move up to, so like to me, whenever I look at productions or directors or whatever the case may be, there's like the little dogs, the middle dogs, and the big dogs. When you're trying to start running with the big dogs, your gear absolutely matters. It doesn't matter if you can make a cinematic image with a Canon 7D or A7S or whatever the DSLRs are hot right now. A label or a big paying job has to see the money. So like when you're on set, whether that's in the end product of the video or the process of the video of being made, you're not selling them just a music video. You're selling an experience. You're selling a perception to them. So part of that experience is them coming to the set and seeing you have a red camera or Ari, and they're like, oh, this is big time here. They see that you got the vest on and the rig and all of these things, and there's a visible difference between the homie down the street who just has a Canon 7D with a little strap around his neck and shooting, you know what I'm saying, doing all of this,
Right.
versus if you have all of this gear, they immediately like non-filmmakers don't understand. Like to them, non-filmmakers will see a red camera and think, oh yeah, if we shooting a movie today. You know what I'm saying? Not
Mm-hmm.
knowing that if the person behind that camera doesn't know what they're doing, they're gonna still get trash footage. You know what I'm saying? But it's the perception that you're selling to them, and that's a vehicle that you can use to A, move yourself up in the ranks, and B, be able to charge more for the productions that you're doing. So I learned this the hard way. To me, a few years ago when I was still in Kansas City, I went out to LA for the LA Music Video Festival. And so at that time, like in Kansas City, I had won a few awards there for like Director of the Year and blah, 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 all this stuff. So I'm thinking like, oh, I have a pretty good chance. Like I got a dope video that's out. And I entered into the music festival, or the music video festival, went there, saw everything that was screening. And it just, even though that my video was a good quality, just like from the conversations that I was having with other filmmakers there, like immediately, like the first question that came out of their mouth was, oh, what do you shoot on? Or what do you guys work with, blah, blah, blah. And at the time I had a 5D Mark III. And so when I told them that, it was like immediately I could see the expressions in their face change of like, oh, you're a little dog, you're a little dude. And I was just like, what? Like, even though my end product was dope, like the process of creating that and
it is,
like your
it is
gear
just
kind
one
of
the
speaks
tools,
about
though.
what level you're at, depending on no
Right.
matter your skill level.
Nah, that's 100%. And you know, some tools require different things, right? So, or some jobs require different things.
Right.
One thing that I wanted to get into before I get into some of these questions, is just like impact of the videos. Like, what's some of the videos that have inspired you that you feel that have the visual has taken the song to the next level? Like, what are some of the music videos that you feel that have really kind of transitioned that, and
So
why?
I draw a lot of my inspiration from the 90s videos and the early 2000s videos where,
It's
you know,
definitely
this
the
was
time.
the Hype Williams era. Like I really, there was before I paid attention to directors' names, like there were still certain videos that stood out to me where it was just like, yo, this is super dope. Like I remember one of the first videos that kind of blew my mind was it was Busta Rhymes and Janet Jackson. It was a song called What's It Gonna Be? And this was a Hype Williams video. And it was like, it was so different from the rap videos that you were used to seeing. Like you're used to seeing, you know, I'm on the block with the homies and we got guns and whatever. But like that video was so weird. It was like, you kind of just have to go watch the video. Like she had this infinity long dress on and there was like little droplets of her falling down in rain, and Busta Rhymes was like this silver floating snake thing. Like it was just so outside of like rap and hip hop type stuff. And I was like, yo, this is so dope. And very inspired by the Missy Elliott videos because I appreciate like surreal art and things that are like outside of the norm. That type of stuff really like excites me. The director that I would say really got me inspired to like really get into the industry and start doing music videos was Colin Tilley, out in LA.
Yeah, Colin Kelly definitely had a nice brand. I like
Colin's like,
some of the videos with Chris Brown. Like those videos really were impactful. Like he took it,
for
they
sure.
took it for the next level. And I know you use a lot of green screen, so even just like basically like, you know, some of these sets don't always have to be creative, but if you're able to use like, you know, green screen to create those things, then you know
Right.
that takes it to another level as well.
Yeah, green screen opens up another world for you got to be careful with green screen. You got to make sure you're doing it right because there's a lot of things that can go wrong with it. And then making sure that your post team is up to par as far as, you know, if you're gonna put your green screen guy inside of a 3D composited world, like you need to make sure that you got a guy who like this is what he does, like 3D
Right.
compositing, and he's gonna make sure that it looks great. Because I mean, you can chroma key out any type of green screen footage if you just slap it on a background and then that's it. Like that ain't it. It ain't it, bro. You gotta make sure you're doing it right.
So
But yeah, green screen.
question,
Go ahead.
in terms of just you know, you as a director, I know like you're into the music videos. Do you feel like, and I know you've really diversified your portfolio outside of music videos. So what do you
Right.
feel like? What do you feel like that? What's the next thing for you that you're gonna be moving towards outside of just music videos?
Right. So, I mean, everybody knows the phrase, like if you want to be a millionaire or super successful, you have to have like 7 streams of income or just multiple streams of income. Right. So, that's kind of what I'm working on now. But I think one thing that I want to touch on with that is that with having multiple streams of income, it doesn't necessarily have to be outside of your industry. So one thing to think about is I have multiple streams of income, but it's still within filmmaking, right? So
Right.
I'm a director. I get booked by artists and labels to direct music videos, but I also sell myself as a cinematographer or a DP. So I invested in a bunch of gear to where not only am I marketing myself to directors or to labels and artists, but I have a whole nother marketing campaign that I just do to directors and producers, and I market myself to them as a DP. So a director can hire me to come and shoot and light their scenes. I give them the footage. They can go do whatever they want with it. I also market myself as an executive producer to some of the independent artists. So like for me to direct a video, I've kind of I've stopped taking like the low budget stuff. But instead of just telling them no, and I can't do your video for a lower budget, what I've done now is that I'll executive produce that video and I'll put some of my younger guys on it. So I have a kind of a community that comes in of like PAs who work their way up and solidify positions for themselves, but they also direct videos themselves as well. They might have their own business. So I'll executive produce a project and let, one of my team members come in, let them direct and shoot it. And I just kind of oversee it to make
so
sure.
Really so you've been able to find that ground of a team that you trust to not only handle certain things for you. So that I feel like that's amazing.
100%. So, with having multiple streams, just think about it that way. It doesn't mean like I'm directing videos and then I got a barbershop down here, which is a completely different industry, which you can do, but just think about other ways outside of the box of I'm just directing music videos. How else can you make money related to filmmaking? Can you sell merchandise? Can you sell any type of product that's related to, any type of intellectual property? Can you sell that? Can you sell your B-roll? That's something else I'm going to be doing this year as well, as opening up a store to sell old B-roll that never got used on videos and things like that. So just being creative with it, man.
That's amazing, man. Well, I got a couple of questions from some of the heavy crew members. These are some of the creatives and entrepreneurs. Let's see. I feel like this is from Cedric. Cedric X. Do you prefer the artist to have an ideal creative treatment to begin in the process? Like how do you basically having an idea ahead of time before you come with your creative?
To be honest with you, I do. And I say that because I want them to give me an idea. And when they give me an idea for a video, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the 100% exactly what we have to do for the video, but it gives me a direction of where we can go with it, right? So the majority of the time, what I prefer to happen is if the artist has some type of idea that they want for the video, and some artists have no idea, which is fine too, but I want them to tell me that before I start creating the treatment. So then I have in my mind, like if he wants to do some gritty trap type of video, then I know immediately not to, not to do something that's the opposite of that. So even if we don't do that exact thing that he says, I'm going to do something that still has that same feel or emotion. What really sucks is that if they give you nothing, right? And you're just starting from blank and you're just doing guesswork, you go and create this whole treatment, or you spend all of this time creating something, and then they're like, nah, I ain't feeling it. And you just wasted all of that time. Right. And that's one thing that does bother me about this still, even now, like the climate of music videos, is that I can submit treatments to labels all day long and maybe get like one of them, you know what I'm saying, as far as getting awarded. And so understanding that there's going to be a lot of time put into creating ideas and they don't get picked, or they don't get picked up or awarded. So you try to be as efficient as possible, because after you send in like 30 treatments and they don't get picked, you're like, come on, man, like you don't like wasting that time and that effort.
So it's more so, it's a collaborative effort, but you want to be able to have the creative reign to create the product yourself.
Right. But the thing that trumps all of that is having a dope relationship with that artist. So if you not necessarily if you grew with an artist from day one, but like if you have a great rapport with the artist, like they're real cool with you, blah, 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 like they might in their head know, like, I want you to direct this video no matter what. So then at that point, even if they don't have an idea and you could just throw stuff out there and they're like, no, not this, no, not that. Like you're still locked in for it. You know what I'm saying? If you have that relationship. So you can play around with ideas, even if they don't have anything or not. If they do have, I just did a video not too long ago they had everything lined out from point A to Z.
We gotta cut it a little bit, but
okay.
But nah, man, I feel like a lot of what you a lot of the gems that you gave to us today is very good, man. For the up and coming creatives, learning about just like what it actually takes to create and ultimately work with other people to create art, essentially. Right. So I definitely appreciate you, man, your time. Where can we find you? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say what you were getting ready to say.
Yeah, of course, I got you, man. Where can we find you? What's your social handles?
Yeah. So you guys can follow me on Instagram at A_M_visuals. I know it's a lot of underscores in there, but just A_M_visuals. AM Visuals. My website is alphamilvisuals.com. You guys can check me out. I sometimes drop gems on my stories, so make sure you guys follow my stories. I'm gonna be actually like kind of how we're having these classes here, or having this conversation here. I'm gonna be doing these more often on my social media handles and things like that. So make sure you guys hit me up, ask me questions. If I'm not shooting or busy, I usually try to answer as many of my DMs as possible because I was at that point at one time asking a bunch of people, so I try to give back whenever I can.
100%, man. Be safe out here in these streets, man, and I appreciate you. We'll be talking soon.
Heavy Sound Labs, I appreciate you guys. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. So up next, we have Tamika Hope, and we have producer Zaytoven, and ready to hear what gems that they got. All right.
My buddy Zay.
Yo.
What's happening? Happy Saturday.
What's up, Miko? Happy Saturday.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I see you got a fresh cut. Must be nice to be on hair to be a barber at this time, right?
Hey, man, it's a good thing.
It's a great thing. That's a great thing. Well, I mean, I don't really want to bore people with your credits because we would literally be here all day, but I definitely have to say we don't deserve you, Zaytoven. You gave us...
don't do that.
Man,
don't do that.
You gave us Versace, so icy, too much sauce. What else? Make the trap say A. We got the album Trap Holiday, Usher's A, and probably my favorite, honestly, is Beast Mode.
That's my favorite. So
real.
What's up? We got that in common.
Yeah, we got a lot in common. We've been rocking over 10 years, so we're like cousins, right?
Of course, first cousins.
First cousins. That's what's up. That's what's up. So I want to jump into it, and I want to start by saying I think stories are important, right? And I think these specific stories I'm going to talk about, they talk about discipline, endurance, passion, work ethic. So I just want to say them, and then I want you to kind of finish it, okay?
Okay.
All right. So you had a bucket, and you were going through the toll at the Golden Gate Bridge. Where were you coming from? What happened? And what did that experience teach you? That's my favorite story.
For those that don't know what a bucket is, it's a car that's barely making it, So me living in San Francisco, almost living out of my car, not living out of my car saying I'm so poor that I don't got nowhere to live or nothing like that. But my ambition was driving me at that point. That means I had a bucket, a car that, that was barely making it. And I did what it take to do what I wanted to do. And I was so excited about doing music. I was so enthused about getting to the studio and things of that nature that I'm taking risks. I'm going at all costs. So I remember with this car, driving on the Golden Gate, trying to, pay the toll to get over the Golden Gate Bridge, and my car cut off. I used to have to throw it in neutral, press the gas to try to keep the engine there, keep the engine running. Where they just cut off, I'm like, oh. So the tow truck people had to come. I ain't had the money to get the tow truck people. So the guy was like, hey man, look what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bump your car all the way across the bridge and I'm gonna let you go. You know what I mean? From there, maybe you can just try to park it or something. So I remember parking. Yeah, I don't know. That's illegal, really. He wasn't supposed to do that.
Nah.
But that's how it went down. But I parked my car right off the freeway. Then I walked to the studio from there, and that was just, that was something that I felt like that taught me, like, no matter what, you know what I mean. If this is what you're trying to do, if this is what you love to do, you got to make it happen. And I always took it like that. If my car break down, if I have to leave the studio at 3 a.m, my car break down at the gas station, I sleep in the car for, a couple hours till the sunlight come up, and figure it out from there. And it was just my passion of, doing music at that time.
That's what's up. Jumping into the second one real quick. So you and your homeboy formed a 2-man band at your high school. Why did you do that? And then what came out of you sharing your talent like that when you were really just doing it for fun?
The 2-man band, I went to the school called Galileo High School in San Francisco, California. And we didn't really have a band. We didn't really have, how out here you got marching bands, they got routines and everything. It's me, our band is me in the stand with my keyboard and the drummer. We both play at the church together. So it's like we playing, we just playing music like you might have heard a song that we playing a song that come on the radio and they're like, oh, I know that song. They playing Jay-Z or they playing this and that. And it's like, and it earned the attention of JT the Bigger Figure at that time. He was the guy that was really running things in San Francisco. He had his own studio. He was like, oh, dude on the keyboard, Cole, I need to get him to the studio. And believe it or not, that's where my whole producing career even started. So.
Exactly. Just sharing your talent, though. I think that's what's important,
I was having a ball. We love to play at the football game. Cause we get all the attention, like, oh, they playing all the songs on the radio.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
And then the last one, and we'll get into some more questions, but you used to unload trucks in the Bay too, as well as play keys in the church. So tell us about the story of why you were unloading trucks, like why you took that kind of job. Like what was your mission behind trying to stack your money?
My job on helping offload trucks, I was getting paid $300 a week under the table, and we were just offloading pallets to all these different stores. And I was in music, I played music in the church. So I was looking at it like, okay, they give me $300 to play music at the church on Sundays. I get $300 from offloading these trucks. I cut hair. So all my buddies, I might make, $50 to $100. I can take all this money and go to the Guitar Center and start laying away me the studio equipment I wanted. At the time, the drum machine I wanted was $3,200. The keyboard I wanted was $3,600. And that's just the drum machine and the keyboard, not mention to get a computer, the software, Pro Tools and interface and all that. So I was taking every dollar I had and taking it straight to the Guitar Center to start getting my equipment, to get my own studio.
Yeah, so you were investing in yourself at all costs.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. All right, Zay. So in 2018, we were in the studio with Nipsey, God rest his soul, at Patchwork. And I don't know if you remember, but during that session, he said this, and I quote it, you're not going to outsmart your instinct. Might as well go with what you feel. And we were in there producing a track for an artist at the time that, we were doing through a competition. And I took that to mean that making records is a lot about gut feelings. And then I also read that producer Mike Dean said in a recent interview that producing is more psychological than it is technical. And it reminded me of when you were first in the studio with Jeezy. And I remember he wasn't feeling so icy at the time, but you made an executive decision to keep that record because you felt it in your gut, right? So would you say that it is more psychological than technical? Or what's your take on it?
Definitely. Like if anybody watch how I create music real fast, and it's because it's a spontaneous feeling. I feel like, like you said, music is not technical. You can sit down, I got all these buttons, I can press all these buttons and get all these different sounds from it, but that doesn't make, the song good or make it sound good or make it a hit. It's just a gut feeling. And that's how I create. I've been creating music like that, ever since I started, and that's how I try to teach other people, you know, that I'm around, like, hey man, just don't overthink it. Don't think about it too much. Let's just create. You know, believe it or not, I'm one of the producers that I've created a sound I feel like that's been going on for almost 20 years now. It's like just the same sound. Like, dang, that sound I was doing, you know, almost like 20 years ago.
Right.
But it lasted this long. And it was for me and for Gucci, it was something that was just spontaneous. We just creating just whatever we feel like at the time. We're not overthinking it. We're not trying to make nothing perfect. We just creating what our feeling in our gut. And I feel like that's what music is. That's what make hit records. That will make artists stand out. That's what makes special music. So that's how we create like that.
And I remember one time when you did when I was doing the podcast Experience Hope, and you said that when you were working with Future, like he doesn't pick and choose the tracks. If you give him 20 beats, he's gonna rap on 20. Yeah. And
that's an artist to me. That's the artist. That's the artist that's saying whatever you put in front of me, I can make something out of it. You know what I mean? That might be the best beat I ever heard. That might be the worst beat I ever heard. I'm finna create something to that. And that's what, you know, that's what that gut feeling is. That's that feeling. So.
Right. When you first started out, Zay, there was no Instagram, no TikTok. So, but you moved to Atlanta with no contacts. You had no friends. But yet you developed strong relationships. So you had to do it all over again as an up and coming producer with access to social media like we do now. Like what would young Zay do with all this access?
I don't even know. I'm so simple. I'm so personal with people that I wouldn't have it no other way than the way, you know, it happened for me. Cause it's like, you know, I was building my relationships. And it was easy for me because I've been moving all my life. I've been moving ever since, you know, my dad was in the military. So I got to go to new schools, make new friends, make new relationships. So I was used to that. And I was, you know, I almost get excited about that. You know how I can't wait to leave. I mean, I don't want to leave all my friends, but I can't wait to make some new ones. And that's what, you know, that's kind of how it was with me with the music. Social media and everything now, it's, you know, you can make new friends or even create with people, but it's not a real personal relationship. I don't think, you know, it's like a distance now. You know what I mean? I can do a record. I had a #1 song in the country with somebody I ain't never met. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a little different now. So I don't know what I would do different. It's like, that's a good question. That's a real good question. I don't even know what I would do different.
Right. But what you did do was when you were working with Gucci, well, first of all, you found an artist that you believed in. And then whatever time Gucci came over, that's
just what it is. And that's what I'm saying. It's like a personal thing with somebody like him. It's like, it's to the point where, man, he might call me 4 o'clock in the morning. I got to sneak him in the house to record some records. But we rock with each other that much that, you know, that's what we're going to do. So,
Right. And then in turn, he starts shouting you out on the beats and it kind of
every song.
Yeah. Developed your relationship. Yeah.
That's how you build a relationship. That's how I built my name. I was like, man, Gucci is one of them guys that's going to do whatever it takes to make it. I'm going to be right there behind him. So whatever you need from me, I'm going to be there to do it. And he just, all you can hear is Zay this, Zay this, Zay the best, Zay, you know what I mean? So, and it made other people be like, you know, it do make you listen to music different. If you like this artist and he keep talking about somebody else, it's like, man, well, that guy got to be the truth. The Bible even talk about, you know, let somebody else speak well of you before you even say it yourself. Let somebody else talk about you good.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
right. You don't have to do it yourself.
You ain't got to do it yourself. Yeah.
Right. Well, Zay, I was like one of your last hires on your team because you felt like your publicist at the time, but I was like on you. I stayed on you. But I will say your first hire, you didn't even have a manager forever, and you still kind of rock like that. Yeah. But your first hire was your attorney, Carl Washington, right? So for up and coming producers, is that the first person you should put on your team as an attorney?
Well, I looked at it as in people like a publicist and a manager and all this. I gotta pay them, and I don't see how they're gonna bring me some money. That's just how I was looking at it. You know, at a young age, like, damn, I gotta pay them. With the lawyers, like, okay, I got a contract. The only way I'm gonna get my money if this guy look over the contract and I signed it. So I got to have him. You know, and I was trying to get away with, you know, with the minimum back then. But as I grew, I started to understand, oh, wait a minute, Zay, you doing all this, but don't nobody really know. You need a publicist to, you know what I mean, to make it bigger, to make you bigger. You're not gonna get no bigger just doing it the way you're doing it.
Right.
So that's what made me start realizing, hold on, I do need Tamika. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It was a hard fight.
I know it's a hard push because I was like, man, what I need a publicist for? Like, I didn't know, you know what I mean? We doing real ghetto business. Like, for us to be popping at the Libra on Moreland Avenue was enough for us. That made us feel like we the biggest in the world.
Right.
So,
right.
I didn't know you get no bigger than that.
Right. But look at where we came, right?
But look where we at now.
Look where we at. And speaking of looking where we at, like in the 10 plus years that I've known you, you've scored movies, you starred in films, you've DJ'd at clubs, you've had residency in Vegas, you've co-hosted television shows, you starred in commercials, performed at the VMAs, on late night shows like Ellen.
I forgot all about all that.
Yes,
yeah.
Costello, Rolling Loud, you played the guitar, and I know I'm missing some, but you have stayed relevant for a very long time. And I think it's important at a time like this, especially, you know, because of Corona, that, you know, when you're not the hottest producer or the person of the moment, and you're not able to tour or make appearances, you have to have all these other almost talent pools to be able to sustain. So talk to us about the importance of reinventing yourself, because I think you're a master at it. And, you know, why does that matter for a producer or anybody really?
I mean, reinventing yourself is the only way you're going to stay in this game. The only way you're going to keep making money and keep getting talked about.
Yeah.
And I didn't got a taste of being everybody, oh, Zaytoven this, Zaytoven that I can't go out like that. I can't go 6 months or a year and it's like, okay, Zaytoven ain't being talked about, or Zaytoven ain't really doing nothing. He ain't really did nothing. I can't take it. I can't sleep at night. So it's like, I'm always thinking about what can I do or what I need to do to keep myself relevant, make myself relevant. So, I mean, if you want to make it in this game, that's the name of the game. You got to reinvent over and over again, you know?
Right.
It takes personality, it takes charisma, it takes you stepping outside the box. I'm naturally a shy, quiet person.
Exactly.
But I didn't, you know what I mean? That's my natural, you know, that's just how I am. But I done had to come out of that. You know, I done had to say at first when I'm like, I'm not gonna be no DJ, that ain't what I do. No, I am a DJ. You know what I mean? I don't get on no TV show. That's not my character. But hold on, yes, I am. I'm finna do that. If I want to remain relevant and be successful in doing this, I got to do it.
Amen. So, you've done it well. Just a few more questions, Zay. So you and I have a book together from A to Zay, and we also did an audio book and physical book called Experience Hope featuring Zaytoven. And I released another one called The Genius Things They Did, and it highlights simple yet like just common practices that people like Steve Jobs, Jay-Z, Nipsey, you know, have employed. So what do you think is the most genius thing you've done in your career? Most genius? Yeah. And it's probably the simplest. It's the simplest, and it's being consistent. You know what I mean? I'm one of those guys that you can almost set your watch to me. It's like, I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna get up even while we're doing this, doing this COVID-19 going on. I still get up at the same time. I still get out here and make 5 to 10 beats in the morning before I go work out. And it's like, I don't need to. I got so many beats I don't even know what to do with. But it's just it's just something that I'm consistent at what I'm doing. I'm still gonna email all these different artists that I gotta, do. I still gonna spend a certain time with my family and my kids, whatever. And it's just, I think that's what has made me successful, is that I'm not gonna quit, whether I'm hot, whether I'm smoking hot, or if I'm ice cold and I ain't got nothing going on. I'm gonna continue to keep doing what I know that has made me successful. I'm gonna keep doing that. And I think the consistency has kept me around, this long. Right. True. And then one of the last questions, the name of this company, Jason Jeter, who's the founder of it, is called Heavy Sound Labs. So what's the heaviest song you've made? And by heavy, I mean the hardest. Like if you had to bet your life on it, and this is your goat song, Zay, like what's the heaviest song? Yeah. That's hard, right? That's so hard. Well, give me three.
my songs that I feel like.
That your heaviest tracks, they could be non-commercial.
Yeah.
They could be on an out, number 7 on the album didn't make it to radio.
Man, I got so many, but I'm gonna say Gucci Mane, First Day Out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say
foundation track too.
Yeah. I'm gonna say OJ the Juice Man made the trap say A.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I got so much Future. It's like, man, I can't even. That's too hard for me. It's like Wi-Fi lit is like, but okay, that's hard.
Right.
That's hard to me. That's too many because I got so many songs that I feel like, and they make me feel like, bro, it's the hardest song in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's too many. It's like I got too many of them that just make me feel like that.
I don't know. That wasn't fair.
That's a hard question. It's one thing to say, what's your biggest record and this and that, but the ones that make me feel like, but it's the hardest, I got too many of them.
Yeah.
It's so many songs that make me feel like that.
Yeah, I know. That's not fair. And we're going to get into a few Q&As before I let you go. But obviously, we're being forced to slow down. But you've been somebody that has always balanced work and family. Like it's no stranger that, you always put God first. Like you're very vocal about it. Tell us why it's important. We didn't really need a quarantine to we shouldn't have needed one to slow us down. But why is it important? I mean, obviously we got to work hard, but then also why is it important for us to, take that break?
I almost think we need it. I feel like even I need it. And, I do pretty good at balancing things, but it just makes you, sit down and rethink and appreciate, it's almost a reset button. That's what I took it as. It's like, even though I'm good with spending time with my family and spending time, praying or hanging with my wife or my kids or whatever, it still took this sitting down to really just, really look at it a different way and appreciate and look around like what I got. Like, man, it's amazing what I have, and and it's just, I think it's really that it's definitely a good reset button. And if I didn't do this, then like if you watch me on TikTok or if you see certain things I'm doing now, you probably wouldn't have seen that if this didn't happen.
Yeah,
I got shows to do. I got to be out of town. I got to, so I'm still moving. I'm still spending the time with the family stuff that I got to do, but not as intimate as it is now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it almost makes you, even with me, being a spiritual person, it makes you pray different. It makes you, be thankful in a different way. So, and I think it was good, even for, people like me.
Yeah. So. Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. So I have a question real quick. Lahindra Kegan says, I have my equipment and software, but lacking skills playing piano chords. What suggestions do you have to efficiently learn piano chords?
YouTube. Now, I play music, right? I play music in the church every Sunday. My son is playing the piano stuff that I can't even play, and I'm not teaching it to him. He learned it off of YouTube.
Okay.
He playing the Beethoven songs like, bro, I ain't never know how to play that.
I heard it from your live. Yeah.
It's like, I ain't never know how to play that, but he watched it on YouTube and he learned it. So, that's a good place to learn.
No, it's a great way to learn. So when creating an instrumental for an artist you haven't worked with previously, what inspires you to build that organic spontaneity for the sound?
That person being in the same room with me. I was working with Mary J. Blige not too long ago, and I was just like, man, Mary J., even though I got 1,000 beats right here, I don't got nothing in here for you. I need to make something right here while you in here for you. And it was just magical, like, oh, that's special. That's it right there. You know what I mean? I didn't have that. I didn't make that beat already. So it makes me, it takes me to another level when I'm in the studio with that artist.
Okay. And then somebody asked, when you have writer's block or even just a creative block, like, I mean, for you to go to the studio every single day, like every day can't be the best, but what are some good methods to overcome that? The
worst days are the best days. Like when I promise you, the songs that I'm saying I feel like my hardest or some of the biggest songs I done had came from me not wanting to create, or it's like I don't really feel like doing this. You know what I mean? That beat ain't really that hard. I really want to throw that beat away. And those be the special one.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that's the one. You know, so it's like anytime you don't feel like doing it, or you feel like you got writer's block and you're not creative, create anyway. Because believe it or not, that might be that special day.
Right.
I done had times where I didn't feel like I done made the hardest beats in the world. Like, these beats so hard. You know what I mean? Then the other time where I'm trying to feed the baby and this and that, I'm just making beats because I said I was gonna make some beats. And it's like, boy, that beat you made that day, that's the one. And it's like, oh,
yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. One last question. So let me see. Is it better to have a signature sound or be able to adapt to different sounds and trends?
For me, I honestly feel like it's best to have a signature sound, identity. I always tell up and coming producers that, because that's the only reason I didn't lasted so long. That's the only reason why people can identify with me. That's the only reason why people want to pay me, is because it's like, oh, I know his sound. I need his sound.
Right.
You know, so many guys right now that probably got more platinum plaques than me, but you don't know who they are. You don't know what their music sound like. So if the song came on the radio, you wouldn't even know, like, I don't know who did that. I don't even really care.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just how it is right now. It's like, it's so many producers they dope and they good, but they so all over the place. It's like they don't have an identity. So I definitely feel like a signature sound is needed.
No, I totally agree. Like it's part of brand building, you know?
And brand building.
Yeah.
Gotta build your brand. Yes, sir.
So Zay, you just put out a new song with Cash Doll. Who else was on that track?
And Icewear Vezo, they both from Detroit.
Okay. What else you got going on?
Man, nice.
We don't know. I know that's what you got to say.
Yeah, it's so much. It's like, of course, you know, all the artists I'm working with, you know, this project coming. A lot of new music coming. Some of the stuff I don't even want to spoil the surprise, because I'm known for spoiling the surprise. Yeah. People that had to come like, Zay, man, don't tell them, like, why you tell? It's like, bro, I didn't know. I didn't know. I was excited about it. I wanted to tell. But you know, I guess the element of surprise is one of the biggest things for the music that we do. So I be talking too much. But
yeah. Just stay tuned.
So it's a lot coming. It's a lot.
I'm telling you, like the type of person you'll be in the studio with Kanye. Like, even you were supposed to come to the BMI Awards, and I was like, Zay, where you at? And you were like, oh, I had to go to Chicago to work with Kanye. Yep. So yeah. All right, Zay, where can we find you? TikTok, Instagram, wherever.
All my social media is Zaytoven Beats, ZAYTOVENBEATZ.
All right, that's what's up. Hey, any positive words you want to leave us with? You know, obviously, you know, you have that spirit in you. Any positive words you can give us to get through this quarantine season?
I mean, remain thankful and humble. That's the way I approach everything.
Yeah, thankful and humble. All right. All right, that's what's up. Thank you, Zay.
Appreciate it, Miko.
Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you. All right, guys. Oh, am I still on? Not sure if I'm still on, but I definitely want to say thank you to Zaytoven. I hope you guys got a lot out of that. I certainly did. I always learn something new from Zay. One of the best people in the industry, in and out. And I hope you guys got a chance to see that. I want to pass the mic to Jason, and then also his talk with Cedric Rogers. I'm sorry, did I say that right? Is that right, Cedric Rogers? Yeah, want to make sure that was right. But I hope you guys are getting a lot out of you know, this heavy crew. I wish this was available to me when I was coming up, you know?
Right.
I mean, all this free game and information that people that you know, wouldn't have access to ordinarily. So I hope you guys are inviting your friends and other counterparts that you know of that, you know, might could benefit. And we got a lot of programming. We got what, Mike, is it called Soundcheck? We got that going on Tuesdays. I did an IG live this past Wednesday. All of our team members will be participating. So hope you guys stay tuned. And Jason, I'm gonna sign off. Fade to black.
Fade to black. Can you see me though? What's
yeah,
up?
bro, I can see.
You can see me? Okay, cool. I don't see myself on the screen, so it's kind of weird. Welcome, Cedric Rogers.
What's going on, bro? What's going on?
My guy, the CEO of All Def, entrepreneur, and just creative entrepreneur. I even go as far, a little further in saying,
Yes, sir.
So thanks for obviously being here with us. I want to, before we get started, thank, of course, Tamiko and Zaytoven. That was a great conversation. Zaytoven, I've always respected him just as a hustler, as an entrepreneur. And like you said, he has his own sound, so nothing could beat that. That's the difference between somebody coming and asking for you, or you just happen to bump into someone and they're, getting your work, in a sense, Also, Malachi spoke earlier with Roger Alexander. Great conversation. Two creatives talking about equipment and videos and skills and tactics, content building, which, we're already into all the way with All Def. And I want everyone to just really kind of hear your story said, because to me, obviously over these last few years, we've gotten to know each other pretty well. We've done business with each other. You have a company, Culture Genesis, that me and my guys have invested in. And so many people, to me, I just find that don't really know how to go about getting investments, or, you have an interesting background, even pre Culture Genesis with Apple. So I really truly want to start there. Clearly, we all know Apple, huge brand. We're probably, most of us are on an Apple product right now as we watch this, So if you could tell us, how does a Black man, young man at the time from Houston, Texas, that went to a HBCU, North Carolina A&T, how did you make it to Apple and start your run?
Wow, Aggie pride, first of all.
Sure.
Great question, man. First, Jason, appreciate you having me on, bro. I should tell everybody before I get started, Jason is a genius entrepreneur and visionary, and has been just super helpful to me in my career, especially in the last probably 5 or 6 years for sure. So
appreciate that.
Going back though, before all of this, as Jason said, I'm originally from Houston, Texas. Most City to be exact, home of so many great creative entrepreneurs and artists. And so, for me, I wound up going to A&T, majoring in electrical engineering. And, it was a great decision on my part, really influenced by Jesse Jackson, believe it or not, bro. He came to my school. I don't know if I told you that. Yeah, Jesse came to high school, bro, and he spoke and everything, and he was kind of like, so, he pulled all the brothers aside, and he was like, so what y'all trying to do? And I was like, I want to go to do engineering. And he told me about A&T because I had never really heard about it, and the whole Greensboro 4 and just everything the school stood for. So I went up there, checked it out, and man, I fell in love with it. So I wound up going up to A&T. And, I passed on Morehouse and a couple others because it was like a full program. It had to do a thing with Georgia Tech and all that, So, So I did that, man. And it was a great thing, man, because I think the biggest thing I got out of A&T was it's nothing like HBCU, bro. I think we got to support them even more. I'm trying to get back to A&T as much as I can because you get an experience to be like around your people, and you learn, how to really collaborate. That's the big thing, right? How to partner with other people and and just kind of think. And more importantly, I think these relationships, man, I've been carrying them since college. There's so many people.
I think that's what's super dope for all about HBCUs, right? Like the camaraderie, the pride, just, to me, the older I get, the more I see it for real, because, I went to Hampton and left early, but so many people embraced me just on the strength of, you went to HU, you went to Hampton, so, I mean, there's so many levels to it. And obviously, when it comes to networking and jobs and people just kind of sharing resources, I think it's really cool, so I definitely think that's dope.
Yeah, so with that, I'll just say that we'll be giving back. You know, we talk about it all the time. I mean, you think about like what we do now in music and the arts, man, it's like so much was being broken through HBCUs and still
Yeah,
is. So
absolutely.
you know, we keep
Absolutely.
that going. But no, after I graduated from Antietam, I wound up getting a gig actually with Motorola, and then I wound up getting moved up to Atlanta. So you know, I've been in the A for a minute, you know. And then I got the gig with Apple, and with Apple, it was one of those things, man. It was a blessing because I
But
ran
how did
into
you
it
get
on
the
accident.
gig? How did you? Okay, I'm sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
I'm
Let
sorry.
me. I'll tell you. So I got the gig. So I'm gonna tell people this is like the hustle, right? And this game doesn't stop. It's actually easier now than it even was then, which was like I was with, like I said, Motorola, and I went to, you know, I was part of NSBE, you know, National Society of Black Engineers. So I
Mhm.
went to their conference and I hustled it up, right? Because I was going there to actually do some recruiting, right? So they paid for me to go. And on the low, I was out there networking like we always doing. And I wound up talking to folks at Apple, and they were like, "Yo, like, you got some good skills or whatever," and we wound up just connecting there. And so from there, it's like, you know, Apple wasn't anything like it is today, bro. Back then, it was just like
Sure.
Steve Jobs had just gotten back, and you know, he was trying to do the iPod, and it was just like, but the one thing I'll take from that lesson, and really has carried through my entire career, I've never been afraid to take risks on things that felt like they could be big, right?
Mhm.
And so like what was going on at Apple at the time that made me want to kind of get with it, it was like I saw how they were doing the iPod, and they had just gotten a relationship with HP. And I was like, this shit
Okay.
is kind of dope, right? And I saw it was like related to music, and I was like, it ain't really
Sure.
popped yet, right? But it was like, you know, I said it might have a chance. And so they had a gig for me to go in as a system engineer. So I wound up going in as a system engineer, working in, I started in the education division. So that's how I was able to be staying in Atlanta. So I was able to fly back and forth from Atlanta to, you know, Cali, and they had me traveling. And then the next thing I'll say that I took from my Apple experience was Steve Jobs ran that company, man, like really flat. He was really open to you, no matter who you were as an employee. You could send him suggestions and like
Mhm.
not be afraid to kind of like, you know, think outside the box.
Yeah.
And so real honest and true, man, I sent this dude an email blind, you know, because I was just bold, you young dumb. I was
Yeah.
like, listen, I'm not afraid, right? I sent him a couple ideas, and real talk, man, he responded, and I was like, damn, you know, and
You got that frame. You got that
and
framed. You got that framed.
yeah,
Like
nah, I
printed
got
out
him.
and
I
framed.
saved him. Nah, I saved him. I had them start referencing. I got a whole folder
Yeah.
of all my communications with Steve, man. But like, yeah, I
That's
hit him
dope.
up, and he was just like, yo, and he could tell, of course, he knew I was this young black kid, so I think it made him curious, you know, too. So
Sure.
then I
Sure.
started giving him these ideas about stuff that I think, you know, we really could have done in like new verticals, like sports and different things of that nature. And it got to the point where he was like, okay, well, cool, why don't you try it? And literally I got it. I wound up getting a gig inside of Apple that was like a Skunk Works team. And I wound up leading the team, and it
Yeah.
wound up growing business in the company. And then they paid for my MBA. So, you know, Apple, that came live, bro. I mean, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. My family was entrepreneurs, but I wound up staying there way longer because of the way they treated me. They kept giving me like incentives to stay, you know, stocks and bonds, you know, I mean, the
Yeah.
RSUs, what
Good.
we call
Good
it, right?
stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff. And I mean, I was I ain't gonna lie, man, I was getting stocks back when it was $26 a share, bro. So, you know, when I was getting that, it just made it hard for me to leave. They call them golden handcuffs, right? So, you know, but what wound up finally making me leave was Steve passed away in 2012. I wound up finishing my MBA from Emory in Atlanta, and you know, I just kind of started feeling like there was something more for me to do. And but I was kind of like, man, what can I do? Where do I want to go with it? And then, you know, everybody knows in Atlanta, everybody knows Paul Judge. And so me and Paul and I were cool, and we were just talking about things, and I had ideas, and Paul was just like, yo, you got that dreamer's dilemma. And I was like, what's that? He was like, either you're gonna continue to take the safety of, you know, chasing somebody else's dreams, or you're gonna take the risk of chasing your own. And when he
Yep.
said that to me, it was like a challenge at that point, Jay. I was like, okay, all right. So I stepped out and created my first startup. What are you gonna say?
No, no, I'm listening. I'm listening.
Okay,
I'm
I thought
looking
you
at the
said something.
sidebar as well. I'm listening. Okay, good thing.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, so I took the risk at that point, man, to create my own startup, and Paul was one of my advisors. And so I did this one venture. It was cool. It can't lie, it wasn't that great. But then I wound up co-founding the other startup with Paul, which was the curators, and wound up coming Look Live. And that's when you and I got connected. Remember?
Sure.
The whole, Look Live, what it meant in fashion, culture. And that was
Sure.
always the thing for me. What really made me want to get into this game as a whole and leave Apple was I just felt like it was just too many white people dominating it, Asian people dominating it, and there wasn't really any people of color building software for us, by us. That was my thing, and trying to appreciate the culture and inspiring other young people to do it. So that's what really made me kind of make the jump. And so when we created Look Live, and I connected with you, and that's all we talked about was culture.
Absolutely.
How to connect to it, how to really kind of use our influence in technology, because we see it in music, we see it in TV, we see it in film, but it's like you never saw it in tech, so that became my thesis. And so I appreciate, like, once again, all of your influence on me doing it, because I just wouldn't be here if it would have been with a lot of our conversations.
No, for sure. That's what's up, and obviously, for you and I, we met at a great time, because we also got to trade off on resources in a sense, right? There were things that clearly that you gave me, knowledge, information, new outlook, perspective, and vice versa, so that's, to me, what was dope and special about kind of us coming together, me being a guy that's built my business, my career solely heavily in like culture, music, entertainment, fashion, lifestyle, things of that nature, so now, as you said, merging these worlds together, bringing tech and bringing culture, better tech in a sense, which is kind of obviously what led to the thoughts and ideas around creating Heavy Sound Labs, but before we even go that far, you mentioned Look Live, you guys started Look Live. That was a company, but I want you to speak on just, why some people raise money, why some people don't raise money, some of the challenges around being Black and raising money, why, how things that we can do to push ourselves, because I feel like that's the conversation that a lot of people never really truly get to hear. Of course, you only hear, it's hard for Black people to raise money, so okay, that's cool. It's hard to do a lot of things. Now, what's the roadmap to that? What better puts me in position to get there for it, Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted first to start that conversation to tell everybody that raising money is hard for everybody. I didn't know that at first, right? I've always kind of like you, Jay, I heard, and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be hard for you as a Black man to raise capital. And of course it is, but I'm gonna be real with you, man. I don't care who you're, white, Asian, whatever. It's hard raising capital in a lot of ways because it's an unnatural thing, right? Think about it. You walking up to a multi-millionaire or venture capitalists who have millions of dollars, and you coming to them saying like, hey, I got a dream and I want you to give me millions of dollars for it. And they looking at you kind of like, okay, now how big is that dream? And I think,
what do I get?
What I get in return, right? I'm gonna give you the money and what I get. And then also Jay's like, how fast can I get it back? I mean, that's the other side of it. How fast can I get it back? Yep. And is it going to benefit me in the meantime? So I think that's the reality, and we all just got to level set, starting there, right? And just understand that, this is not an easy game. This is a high stakes game. And, people, even though VCs are losing money every day, they still are very, very particular about, who they give their money to. And it is kind of a formula out there. And I didn't know that. And I think that's where I have to give Paul, he's an OG in the game. He started to teach me that part of it, right? This really is like a game of like, you got to say and do the right things to position yourself to get the money.
Sure.
And so, that's what I started to learn. And of course, that's what you and I started to talk about. So
sure.
let's double tap on that. So what does that mean? Okay, you say it's a lot to kind of, it's called pattern matching is what it's really called. And it's really the basis of what we were doing with Culture Genesis. Like, we knew that you can look at technologies that emerge and you can go chase every single thing out there. But the reality is that venture capitalists at different phases are giving money to different things, right? Whether it's like, you could say
trend forecasting, perhaps.
Yeah, yep, exactly what they're doing, right? Because you got to think about a venture capitalist perspective. They're sitting back getting pitched a lot of stuff, right? And so let's say they're getting 100 pitches, but then what they start to notice is like, there's a trend. I got like 30 pitches about, software as a service. Like, okay, and they're all focusing on like, back in the time when everybody think everything was like Uber meets this, right? Everything was like, on demand service. So then they start kind of zooming in on that, right? And so then that's the real thing you got to start to understand, is that certain venture capitalists are looking at certain things too, right? Some of them are only focused in the entertainment side. Some of them only focused in the financial services. And so you got to be real clear about understanding who you're talking to, first and foremost, what they're looking for. So when you walk in the door, you can start to be able to kind of mimic what they look for and want, right? I mean, that's just really what this is. It ain't, I wish it was more complicated than that, but it really isn't. The hardest part of it is actually having the traction in whatever it is you're doing, right? Because they look for 4 things, and I'll say this, and we can keep recouping this, but they look for a good idea. They look for a good product. And when I say idea, I mean a market. Like, they want you to be attacking a big market. They want to know that this thing can scale to millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. And then they want to see if, do you have a product, a good product that looks somewhat stable? And then thirdly, they want to know, does that product have traction? And traction can be quantified in a lot of different ways. Traction can mean, you got a certain amount of users, or traction can mean that you've gotten the product built to a certain state and they're like, oh, it looks good, right? And then fourth, and almost the most important thing, is, do you have a good team? Who the hell is going after this with you? Are you going on this by yourself? Or do you have a crew of 3 or 4 people that look like, man, they're kind of smart, intelligent people trying to solve a problem? One thing that I'd say that, for me, how I got to the ability to raise money the way I have been is, like I said, I did partner with Paul early. He started to teach me the game. You got to learn from somebody. You got to get, some real OG to teach you kind of the game, even if it's online, but you got to take the time and study and learn. So that's the first thing I did. And second, what I did is we went after, I wasn't afraid to fail. Let me say this. I tried to get into Y Combinator, which if you all haven't looked, y'all should all go look it up. It's Y Combinator, Combinator. But it was like that premier program, right, for startups to get into, right? Like the Harvard of Y Combinator. And so I went after Y Combinator 3 different times. I failed twice. 3rd time I got in, right? And I went in with Paul.
I never
remember that?
Yeah. Okay.
Do that, right?
All right.
So the first time I went in there, I didn't even get an interview. Second time, I got the interview. And we bombed the interview. 3rd time, I went back with Paul, and I was like, I told Paul, like, man, I know everything we need to do and say, right? Once again, it's all about the pattern matching. I knew. And then Paul, with his background and a couple other people on our team, we knew exactly what to say, what to do, how to go in and present ourselves, which got us, into the program. And then once we got into the program, then we started meeting a bunch of other venture capitalists. And so I know a bunch of venture capitalists. And so, I actually wound up having a chance to even go work for a venture capital firm too, right? As what they call entrepreneur in residence. So I've been on the other side of the table. So I don't need anybody to tell me what they say. I've been in a room when they know what they say.
So pause right there, right? Because I even see in the comment bar on the side, people having side conversations and all of that. But I think that's like such a critical part, right? A critical point, rather. The fact that you prepared yourself, like you said, you lived on both sides of the table. You were the guy that went and got the door slammed 1 time, 2 times. It happened the 3rd time, and then further down the line, you actually went and became a entrepreneur in residence, at a VC firm. So now to me, I think that that's the real reality, right? Not so much that it's, well, I mean, like you said, it's hard for anybody to raise money. I don't care when, where, right? You go to the bank anywhere. It's hard to raise money, period, right? You know, but just the reality that I think a lot of us really don't know the steps that you really have to take to politically, relationship wise, position yourself. The same way that, you know, not to use these terms, but if you want to play baseball, you got to go to certain programs, right? You got to go to certain leagues, certain schools. If you want to play basketball, you're going to play AAU with certain coaches and certain things. It's no different on this side, right? You got to prepare yourself, understand what it is, not assume, but really dive in and educate yourself and get your hands dirty and climb up that ladder the same way we do in any other sport. Same way if you're a rapper, right? If you're a manager, you got to go to the same open mics. I need to get the Genius plug. I need the you know, I need a certain plugs, you know? Man. Yeah, so it's the same thing. And to me, like I say to everyone, I just want to help project this information, get information out there, and tell a whole story, you know, because we have the heavy crew, which I'm building. And the reality of it is everyone's not going to have a job in the music business. You know, it's just a fact. I'm sorry to say that, you know, and for me, as I've so many friends, so many people close to me that were also trying to do things in the space of music, you know, and to me, I feel like, yo, what is at what point do you pivot? I think that so many people keep going forward, and I'm looking up and I'm like, yo, it's 20 years in now. You're still doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have pivoted and went a different way and probably actually gained a lot of success throughout this time, for real, you know? To me, I think the story is dope, and it's great to even, for people to even see and understand and hear about the Y Combinator. And of course, you could talk about some of these other guys that you got to invest in your several, in your different ventures, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say one other thing to your point, Jay. I don't want to miss this. I just heard this recently. You know, we've unfortunately lost a lot of people in the last year, man. It's been crazy. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows about Kobe passing away. And Kevin Hart was telling this story. I heard this from Kevin Hart, of all people. He was talking about how they were in Philly and they were in a high school basketball camp. And Kevin was like joking. He was like, yo, I'm in this basketball camp and Kobe comes through. He was like, yo, I'm that shit because I'm in this camp with Kobe. Yep. And he was like, yeah, you know, Kobe was in there and I even tried to check him up a couple of times. And no, he did me dirty, but you know, I was hanging with him. Yeah. And finally, towards the end of the camp, the coach was like, I want y'all to understand something. Kobe been wearing y'all out and he's been doing his whole camp with his left hand to practice on his left hand.
You idiots. You didn't even notice the guy's only playing lefty right now.
He's playing only with his left hand,
that's
bro.
Hilarious,
he did that whole camp with his left hand. And I only bring that up to say, like, man, like Kobe, like that work ethic, man, that dude was like that in high school. And he understood that sometimes you got to just really focus on the fundamentals. You got to study the best. You know, that's why he had that video Detail, that whole series about how he would break down Jordan and everybody. And I'm not to say like, you know, we are going to get that success, but there is something to be learned that, to your point, I think is the next part of this thing, Jay, is like learning when to pivot. You know, like it's difficult. I'm not going to sit here and act like to anyone listening and even to myself that it's been easy, but I had to pivot. I had to learn like along the way to kind of like, okay, this kind of worked and this didn't work. So let me make this adjustment. And, you know, these adjustments have brought me to where I'm at. And I'll say here, you know, to everyone, like, I'm not where 100% where I want to be, but I know without a shadow of doubt, I'm like in the direction and stratosphere where I know we're going to hit it really big. Right. And so, you know, these things have been levels. There's just levels to these things. And you know, and shit, Jay, you've been a part of me leveling up. You've been with me as I level up. That's also I can share with everyone. That's probably a reason why you've been able to invest with me. We've been able to grow together. And I think that's the thing that everyone has to kind of look for. How am I growing? How am I leveling this up? What adjustments am I making? You know, we can call them pivots. We can call them whatever you want to label it, but you got to keep growing, you know, and that requires, like someone I see in the comments, like just a self-awareness, right? You got to be aware of who you are, you know, where your deficiencies are, how can you meet those deficiencies? And then how do you partner with people? This is the most important thing for me, is how do you partner with people who help you with your deficiencies? You know what I mean? People, you got blind spots and things you ain't so good at, you got to find the people who help.
Which is, like you said, that's team building, right? And I think that lots of times traditionally in hip hop, we've pretty much come from like a neighborhood perspective. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this is me and my friends, this is what we're doing. You know, so now we're building together. We're building Grand Hustle. We're building whatever this movement is together. Even though that's really the sweet spot with Grand Hustle is myself and T.I., we came together on business terms for real. You know, both being young and recognizing like, hey, he has talent and I can contribute something to him and he can help me get where I want to get, and vice versa, you know? And of course, through that, through us coming together, we became friends. Right? It's truly coming together and saying, okay, we both look attractive to each other and we can come together and we can move forward, you know? And I think that so often when it comes to team building, people don't really have much diversity in their teams for it. Like you said, it's really, hey, we're friends. Hey, you know, we're right here with each other. This is easy. Hey, help me. And so many times you hear people, you know, complain about the efforts not being evenly matched. You know, like, hey, I'm doing this and this is my partner, and it's like, yo, you're dragging someone along versus truly coming, and this is back to the Heavy Crew, you know, like truly saying that people could meet each other right here on this platform online, not know each other, but really come together and create something in a real way because you're complementing each other, you know, skills and efforts and just seriousness alone. A lot of people, you know, just are not evenly yoked, you know, when it comes to partnerships and teams.
Can I add to that, Jay? Because you said not evenly yoked. I'm gonna tell y'all a little secret that I think helps you find partnership. You know what you should go do? Find somebody that's already failed before. Find people that's already been out there trying it and like running into their own walls. And then what happens is they kind of made that self-awareness thing that someone mentioned before. Like a lot of times they start to realize like, dang, like I can't do that part that well. So like right now, you know, my business partner that you all can't see, his name is Sean Newsom. So Sean and I are complementary characters. Really, we are. Like he's way more, you know, comfortable to be introverted and thinking. But he's very, very smart guy, you know, and I feel like I'm fairly smart. We both still technical, but he comes from it from a different angle and we're able to communicate. And I think the other thing that you got to find is why the failure is important is when people have failed, then they start to have a level of humility, right? Because see, what happens oftentimes, I saw somebody saying, it just doesn't happen in music. I like, no, it happens in every industry. See, when people start
every industry, man, you don't know, like, you
just gotta find people they've made their own share of mistakes. Then they kind of get to be a little humble. They start to feel like, okay, maybe I don't know every damn thing. You know, it's like, well, maybe I can find somebody who can like know what I don't know. You know, somebody who's better at marketing or somebody who's better at the business, the books, or you know, it's just all different sides of business to be successful. You know.
Absolutely. So Joseph Simbe says, how do we practice pivoting to gain experience and knowing when to pivot? You know, I think that's bam, right there where you're at, right? And the reality when we talk about educating ourselves, like, yo, to me, it just baffles me sometimes how we're in the information era. You know, we can consume information via YouTube, via a book, via a podcast, via a documentary, you know,
documentaries,
you know, documentaries, you know, and to me personally, I read when I was in the 12th grade, I read a book by Reginald Lewis. Some of you guys may know him, some of you guys may not. Reginald Lewis, incredible Black entrepreneur, credited for doing like one of the first $1 billion deals, you know, in America as a Black man, you know. So I read this dude's story when I was in the 12th grade. He has a book that he wrote, unfortunately passed, but it's a book called Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? All the fun. Yep. And in this guy's story, reading his story, this guy was like the pivot master. Like he just kept cutting and growing, you know? So I tell people all the time, if you want to learn, you have to do stuff like this for real. Obviously, it's great if you can find a mentor that has some success and you can talk directly to, but consume the information and listen to people's stories for real. You
Yeah.
listen to someone's story that's successful, you're going to see that this wasn't their first thing that they attempted and they were
Right.
successful. You know what I'm saying? So like you said, it's back too. Most of the time you've tried something, you failed, you came back to the table, you made some adjustments and you tried it again. You know, you didn't give up. You kept learning from your experiences until you finally got there. So I'll say to everyone, man, consume the information, study other people that have stories of success that are places that you want to be. Read their stories and you're going to see it ain't easy. And you're going to kind of pick up like, oh, okay, I have to pivot. I have to know when to get up. Like you sitting there too long. It's like being on the Titanic, right? You can't sit on the Titanic too long and now you don't get a raft. You got to get out of there, man. You got to get a raft.
You got to get off, bro. You got to get off. And timing. So Steve Jobs. I was gonna say, you still there, Jay? Yeah, I was gonna say Steve Jobs called it. He was always say, you know, I want everyone to learn how to see around corners. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean, Steve? And he would say two things: see around corners, and I want you to zoom in and zoom out. Right? Oftentimes we can't see the forest for the trees, right? Whether that's what's going on in the industry or what's going on in a relationship. You know, you gotta like have times of reflection. So what I mean by this is that, as you were saying, Jay, you gotta like study the habits of a lot of these people. One of the things that kind of, I'm gonna take it a little left here, you start to learn is like these people, a lot of these people that we deem as successful people, they have a lot of interesting habits where they meditate, how they, you know, take time to read, and you'll see that they put a lot of time into the cerebral part of their life that we don't really know about because it's all tucked away and quiet. But those are the things that give them that chance to kind of have those moments of reflection, which then helps you make the pivots, right? Because then you start to realize like, yo, this ain't serving me well, right? You know, and you got to kind of say, now, what's the next thing to do? And, you know, like I said, you know, I'm gonna give Steve one more thought. You know, a lot of people think he was like a genius for like understanding technology, but to me, he was a genius in the way he structured the company. He knew kind of like what to do with people and how to structure an organization to be agile and to iterate on products quickly. And it's so much so that a lot of people don't know this, that when he was passing away, before he passed away, found out he had cancer. He hired in this guy named Joel Podolny. He was the dean of the business school at Yale. And he brought this dude in and he was like, listen, I just want you to study the company and I want you to start writing case studies about why we do what we do. And so, you know, Apple at the time had nothing written down on the wall or none of that. It wasn't that kind of company. Yeah. So dude was running around trying to understand, and he had to learn the hard way about how people did stuff because it was just never written down. And then he started making these case studies, and then he started bringing up people like me. I wound up going into Apple University, and they literally started making us learn why we do what we do. And it was like amazing to think about, like one of the principles was like, you know, being able to see around corners and understanding and like how to anticipate market direction. And those are the things that take time to learn. And you can either have a mentor to kind of help you there, or you really can just take your time and read up so many great books about it. But I do feel like a lot of it comes down to being like thirsty for the knowledge and finding it, and it'll come to you and it'll help like frame your thoughts, you know?
Yeah, nah, totally, man. It's a good conversation going on. Some dialogue on the sideboard about mentorship, finding a mentorship. Alicia Howard says that people are charging big money for mentorships out here.
That ain't a mentor.
That's a hustle. That's a hustle, Alicia. That's not really a mentorship program. You know, to me, I'll say this, right? I called a guy earlier this morning that I consider one of my mentors. And I think personally, a lot of times people don't realize, well, mentorship, I think it's like, it should be like mutually beneficial, you know, exactly. A reverse or mutual mentorship, you know. So for anyone that I look towards and I value their opinion, their thoughts, their experience, you know, I have some things going on. This is a guy that I respect. He's an entrepreneur, has been doing it for a long time. So I called him to kind of run some ideas by him, right? You know, but in just saying that, I always make sure that when I come knocking on his door, I bring a gift. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, you know, it's like when someone comes to your house, right? You coming over, it's nothing like that person that comes to your house to visit for dinner and they have a bottle of champagne or a bottle of your favorite, whatever that is, you know, something to offer. Now it's just like, oh man, you know, I love seeing you. It's all smiles when I see you, you know. So I think that in general, we have to understand that mentorship should be mutually beneficial and therefore typically kind of invest in their time. You know, a lot of people that are older and have success, you have to find their spots that they don't have as much success in, you know, and kind of feed them some information. A lot of times they don't know what's going on in the streets, you know, so I'm gonna give you the information of what's going on in the streets. You give me the information, what's going on over there, you know, in the other world. So, you know, just to really say that for real, like that's just a thing that I practice myself.
You know? Yeah, I was gonna say, Jay. So it's funny. It's real. So just for everybody here, Jason and I, we talk all the time, but we've never talked about this. But I'm gonna tell you how we do the same thing. We didn't even know it. So one of my mentors, super successful in business, and like you said, a lot of times they're gonna be a little older than you, have some wisdom and whatnot. And the thing that you can provide to your mentors, even so, let's talk about how do you get a mentor and how you maintain a mentor. Okay, let's talk about how to get one. So how to get a mentor, a lot of times you have to identify someone that you think is successful and literally ask them to be your mentor. Like you say to them, like, Absolutely. Hey, I admire what you're doing. You know, I'm trying to get in this space, and, you know, I know you're a super busy person, but like, hey, you know, whenever you have time, I would love to just be able to, you know, get some of your time on the phone, via email, whatever it is. And then what I do, to your point, Jay, the second piece of this is that I started I even did this to Steve Jobs. I did this to Tim Cook, who was a current CEO. Mm-hmm. You know what they love me? I would start sending them shit, because when I was getting my MBA at this time, I was sending them stuff that I felt like would be relevant to Apple's business. Like, Absolutely. I know they reading stuff and doing stuff on their own, all day long. But at the end of the day, one man can't be everywhere. So I was like sending them information like, yo, like, have y'all seen this? And I would give like a one-line thought. Because anybody at a high level don't want a lot of words, right? So that's the last thing you want to do. Don't send them no wordy email. Like, don't send them wordy anything. But be very direct and give them some feedback of like, hey, here's what I see. Here's what's going, right? So I would do all those kinds of things, to your point, Jay, to kind of help enrich that opportunity for some sharing, you know, what's going on in my world, what's going on in your world. Boom. And it became such a, you know, lifting to where now they're looking for you. They're calling you, you know, on things like, hey man, what do you know about this? And one last thing I'll say to this thought is, like, as you all are out here, and this is what you're actually doing, Jay, I didn't even think about this. So funny. When I was getting my MBA, they said you should actually get what they call a brain trust. Mm-hmm. You should have 100 people in your network that you know that can bring you some kind of benefit on some subject matter. And you should be able to give them benefit on another subject matter, right? So if you know somebody, you need a guy or two that you know that are good lawyers, doctors, whatever. So whenever you got questions, you go to that person immediately, and then they'll come back to you with something immediately too, because they know you're an expert in something else. And that's the way you kind of really build and grow, right? And so I think that's what Heavy Crew is, right? When I think about it, it's that it is,
absolutely.
It's network. So
absolutely, it's definitely community, it's network, and it's the thought of also scaling out mentorship. You know, so people in here are saying, "Hey, how do I get a mentorship?" You know, really for real, I got mentors that I never met before. You know what I'm saying? Just being that I watched them. You know, I watched them. I study them. I listen to their conversations. Robert Smith's one of my great mentors. You know, never met the dude before a day in my life. You know, so I think that's something that's also real. You know, just identifying people that you know you want to study. You know, and then of course you got to prepare yourself as well. Again, it's levels. You know, so like you said, the higher the levels these people on that you're admiring, you know, they got a lot of options. They have a little bit of time. They have a lot of, you know, things on their itinerary. So now you truly are going to have to, you know, perform at the top of your game. So once again, they feel like you guys are really trading off on information. You're turning them on to something because they know what they can do for you. When you already got money, you know, I know what I can do for you, right? It's a million people trying to see what the money looks like. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you're still a person of a business person. So you're still like, okay, now who can pour some of this some of this other stuff that I'm not seeing into my system as I give you what you're looking for, you know? So just wanted to touch upon that.
I'm gonna drop one more knowledge piece, Jay, because
Okay,
what you
cool.
said something that struck me. So there's a really good book that we can make sure y'all go check out. It's a short read. It's called Still Like an Artist. And in his book, what it talks about is what Jason was saying, like on a lot of levels, you can have a mentor that you never meet. And then the other side of that too is that the people you meet that inspire you and you're thinking about what they do, go find out who are the people that inspired them. That's the other,
That's
key,
real,
right?
That's real.
Like,
Who they look at. Yep.
Yeah, man. It's like, so you kind of like, so for me, it was like, yo, Steve Jobs is like one of my guys, right? That I had in that pedestal. Then I started to learn about the people who inspired him. You know who inspired Steve? Walt Disney, Edwin Lamb, who was the guy who created the Polaroid camera. So when you go read about those guys, you start reading like, oh shit, Steve stole that shit from them. You know, you start realizing ain't nobody that original, bro.
So that's like music, right? I'm just gonna steer it back real quick to, you know, the music thing, right? Same thing exactly. Like when producers come in the game, I always say that, like, who's your favorite producer? If they're sampling, identify who they're sampling the most. You know, identify that. You know, certain producers always go to, like, you know, Kanye, all these different producers at a certain stage, they laid on Roy Ayers or this one or that one, you know? Right. And it's like, really go to that source and really study that source for real, because back to your point, that's really some of the people that they learned from for real. So, you know, it's kind of, if you want to get closer to originality, you got to go above. You can't, once again, just study the first layer. You got to go some layers back so that you can really get those tools for real and resources that inspired them to be who they were, you know? Agree with that totally. So let's go a little forward.
Okay.
Let's talk about All Def. You know, All Def was started in 2016, right? By 13. Well, 2013 by Russell Simmons. They invested a lot of money into this company, and we got the opportunity to acquire it. You know, clearly it's been a brand. It's big on YouTube. It's big on Facebook. It's big in the comedy space. It's big in the space of music, you know. Let's talk about that. How did that opportunity come about? How did you put the money together to go and buy this business from Russell Simmons that they had already and what's the future of this company now as well, now that you have your hands on the steering wheel, you know?
You know, that's a great question, Jay. I mean, it's like, it kind of dovetails into everything we've been talking about just in life. Like, you know, I don't think anything happens by accident. You know, it's like, you know, kind of things find you as you're working, you know? And so let's talk about what I mean by that. So when we created Culture Genesis, Sean and myself, we were able to create a venture that was 100% focused on, like, listen, we wanted to build something for the culture. We wanted everything we do to have that leaning towards people of multicultural audiences, African-American predominantly, but anybody brown essentially. And so when we had that focus, it made things easy for us to go partner, you know, when you were out there. So what we started to do, we were working with, as you know, Jay, we can kind of talk about it first and foremost, so everyone out there knows, I was able to, you know, get this thing started, get some investors, as Jason said. And then, but what happened next is I was able to go back to Jason and Tip, particularly as two brothers who understood entrepreneurship better, probably than anybody else that we have been talking to that were, like, I would say, celebrity. You know, so when we were able to partner, we went out there and we started with our first project, which was Trivia Mob. We got some traction with that. And then we started getting people wanting to partner with us. So like Kevin Hart and his group, LOL Network. And then we also had like Steve Harvey and on and on. And then we also started partnering with All Def. And so we were already working on a project with All Def. And we were going to do some great things with them. They actually had contracted us to actually do some work with them. And so Jay, we went over to the studio a couple times, or, you know, took Tip over there. So we were really going to be tight with All Def to begin with. But we didn't know what their financial situation was, right? So for everyone out there to know, like, money is not a cure-all for your success either. I want to say that up front. Like they had $13 million that they had invested in the company, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be successful, right? Because there's tons of startups that burn through cash and don't find success. And so for different challenges and different reasons, you know, they were failing. And so they actually wind up, you know, failing. And then that's when we were able to acquire it. Now, how did we acquire it? We were just a little bitty startup, but what was going on at the time is that we were already in the midst of our own fundraising process. Things were going our way. And so what we did is we were able to go back to our current investors, which include Tip, Jason, Baron Davis is even in that crew. And we were all able to sit down and talk about what we felt could be accomplished with All Def and what we wanted to do for the culture. And we all had our own kind of interests in it. You know, as Jason mentioned, All Def has comedy, music, poetry. And then we've also recently expanded into gaming and cannabis. And so with that, what we wanted to do was like really kind of partner and team up and go into it. So that's what we did. We got other investors along with this group. We made the acquisition in November. And what's crazy is Sean and I, you know, when we created Culture Genesis with talking to Jason and Tip, Jay, remember our whole conversation was all about live interactive. Remember that's all we used to talk about, right? And doing it for the culture. Absolutely. Now you look up, that's all everybody's doing now.
That's all we're doing right now. So I mean, that's how it is. You know, you have to be forward and look ahead. And now, of course, this quarantine has forced everyone to move faster, right? You know, forced everyone to get into the content space. You know, the music business, streaming is down right now. You know, in music, you know, video streaming is up right now. You know, so you know, just kind of dropping in on the sidebar as well. Conversations happening on the side. That's just back to, you have to read the times and the, you know, if perfect example for me, you know, there was a time before streaming that people really made their money in the management side of the music business, you know. So for me, I didn't really like being a manager too much. So I knew that this isn't my era right now. Management, let me go. And I went and created a cool Strivers Row and Hustle Gang, 3 other brands that I had equity in that I could build real properties for myself. Now the business is shifting back for record labels. I'm more of a record label guy. Now it's my turn to get back in the game, you know? So I think that a lot of people, you have to read the landscape and adjust with it. You can't go straight ahead, full speed when a curb's coming up. You know what I'm saying? Like, and a lot of people, you know, you're so emotional, but I want to do this, I want to do that. And that's why a lot of times you're not going to be successful. Like you said, you got to look at the trends. You got to look at the market. You know, it's not about you. You can cut through. Someone can cut through, but most of the time is you're going to bust your head open before you cut through, you know?
Yeah. You know what they say in YC, Jason, which is 100% to what you're saying? You got to build or make something that people want. Like, it's a very simple thing to say that, but it really is so real, because oftentimes we get caught up in our own dreams and what we think we want. But it's like, listen, you got to know what the people want. You know, that's what the culture is so rich. You know, you got to be paying attention. You got to be actively engaged with the culture, so you know exactly what people want, and then you go test it. You don't necessarily got to go blow your whole load right up front. That's what's so cool about everything being digital right now. You can take things digital and you can go create a little something, test it, get a few people liking it, then you can kind of scale it. That's why, like, something like in the music business, SoundCloud is so great, bro. You can take something, put it out there, put a little bit of marketing, just your own personal little network around it, see if people start to like it, you know. And that's the whole, you know, kind of, I think, thesis behind Heavy Sound, right? Is to be able to put stuff out there and test that market and let it scale.
You got to use the tools that you have. Like you said, we have all of these resources now, you know, to look and see, hey, we put a record out on Tuesday, let's see the traction, you know, let's see the traction before we start dumping money and all of this extra time, you know, into this record just because we think that this is the record. Let's see what the people feels. And as the people speak, now we'll put more resources, more capital, more efforts on this record, you know. So that is the difference between today's music business and yesterday's music business. You know, I have people in the comment side. I forgot one of you guys said, "Hey, why aren't people having platinum albums anymore?" Yo, nobody's talking about no album. Period. Albums. Like, let's just be honest. An album is only really now today. You know, an album is a way for an artist to tell their complete story and get their, you know, their whole thoughts out, and, you know, in a complete story for the most part. But we have playlists now. You know what I'm saying? So playlists is, to me, it's like going back to the 50s, to the jukebox era, to the 45-inch, you know, singles, and now it's a single-driven business. You know, so you may have an album that has 10 songs on it, and the album might not go platinum, but you may have 4 songs off the album that goes platinum. You know, so the game is just different. You know, that's why it doesn't make sense for you to deliver an 18-song album anymore, like rappers did in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? That's why it doesn't make sense for you to deliver a song with 3 16-bar verses anymore, because, yo, the game has changed. Nobody wants to hear all of that. Get out of here. Like, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd say to that point, to your point about the playlist is the new, you know, mixtape. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, the playlist gives you that chance to put stuff out there, test it in a digestible way. But I think to your point about storytelling, though, I want to make sure that people are clear that storytelling isn't dead. Storytelling is evolved, right? So, yes. Like, you know, like I remember Biggie, two album release, you know, double album releases. What? Like people like, yo, that's gone, but it's not necessarily gone, because somebody who's doing it for a certain genre of hip hop is like Travis Scott. Look at what Travis Scott is doing. Like Travis Scott is like literally like painting pictures and telling a story in his own way. Now, whether you rock with his music is up to you, but you know, there's a group of people that rock with Travis because of what he does imagery wise, right? He's like out there staying in his lane. He's building out this whole, you know, virtual leveraging technology in a way that's like, it's really inspiring, right? I mean, so it's like everyone can do that in their own way and tell their own story, right? And it's out there for the taking, because all these things are right here on your own laptop and your phone. It's not like it's like rocket science either. It's just a matter of
putting in that work, man, preparing yourself, digging deep to understand, the tools that are there to you, and learning the tools for real. That's the reality, you know. Like I always say also, a lot of times you'll see a producer with so much equipment and you haven't mastered any of it, you know, versus one producer with one machine, 2 machines, and it's like, yo, I know how to do everything with this machine because I mastered it for real, you know. Let's see, I want to take some questions on the side. Travis, super dope, absolutely. I wonder how many of you guys saw the Fortnite show. Travis doing that Fortnite show was super dope, pushing things forward. And I think that in this climate, you know, you have to see, what can a new artist do? We know what huge names like Travis Scott and Kendrick Lamar and those guys, they have all the resources to them, you know. But I think that now, like you said, storytelling isn't dead. You just have to figure out how to tell a story effectively in today's climate. You know what I'm saying? Like, so now, you know, I feel like artists, creatives, that now the creativity is really gonna have to come out. You know, now you really can't hardly fake it. You know, you think a lot of people will always say, oh, it's a mood. And if you have a mood that's inspired by partying, drugs, like certain elements like that, you know, you think right now there's no festivals, and there was festival music. So now, okay, like what does that mean today? Like no one's gathering and partying. So now you got to kind of adjust your art, your output, you know, your creative outputs have to be adjusted for real. Understanding, yo, the climate is different. You know, nobody wants to hear you talk about a Ferrari or a Lamborghini when we're all sitting in the house, nobody's going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, so now it's like, you know, it's really different. And I think Cardi B is a perfect example, because, you know, that was someone that we all saw, so many of us saw. She captured us by her personality originally on social media, you know. Then she came with the records, you know. So to me, I think that once again, content, all deaf, but just content that we all can create, you know, in our own. people, maybe artists on here, you may be a manager, you may be a marketer. You know, I think you just have to take that into consideration. How can you really create incredible content today that's going to cut through and break through while we're all sitting at home, you know? So
Well, Jay,
any closing remarks for you said, man?
I would say that speaks to your the thing that we were talking about. Like, I don't expect all creatives to be like, damn, I gotta create all this on my own. Like, that's the whole partnership thing again. You gotta find people who can help you tell your story. I think if I was a dope artist right now, I don't care if it was hip hop or even R&B, I would be thinking about how I could be telling my story like right now to the story of life of what's going on, right? This corona and this being quarantined. I mean, this, if I had that ability to like create from, you know, my vocals, bro, I'd be killing it right now. Cause I just think it's just so much opportunity to like paint vision and connect to people because everybody locked up. So it's like, yo, like, let me just speak to what we all feeling right now. You know what I'm saying? It could go viral, you know, it's just a matter of like, who wants to do it. So,
and someone's gonna do it, right? So that's the exciting part too, is like really seeing like who's gonna do it. Like I see so many people try, I'm shooting content. You're talking about you're shooting content for records that you recorded prior. Whereas like you said, now you gotta reflect the times. You gotta come with that Marvin Gaye, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Reflect the times, and that's what artistry is about. You know, that's what hip hop's about. You know, really reflecting what's happening, you know, within the streets, you know, around America and around the world today, you know.
And so I'll say that with the last thing, just so everybody out there knows, you know, because Jason is definitely a major investor, advisor of what we're doing over at All Def Music is going to see some evolving. So y'all should be looking out for what we're going to be doing there. There's going to be a lot of connection with Heavy Sound. I think one of the things that we really want to do is you're going to see that these heavy talks are going to they're going to be co-produced with All Def Music. You're going to start seeing them on all of our channels. So whether you go to All Def Music on Instagram, you'll see that it's there. All Def Music on YouTube. And so we'll be taking this content and, you know, kind of putting it there for y'all to engage on. But I think more importantly, Jay, I mean, we won't blow to all our ideas, but just be on the lookout for some cool stuff that we'll be doing to take with Heavy Sound and All Def Music. And that was one thing else. Quincy Jones said this. I was in a room. He said this. He says, listen, man, don't tell everybody that you're going to the moon. Just call them when you get there, bro. Just call them when you get there. So
that's notorious Quincy Jones line right there. Don't tell me you're going to the moon. Just call me when you get there, my guy.
So I'm gonna call y'all when we get there.
Absolutely. We've got a lot of great stuff coming, a lot of good alignments with Heavy Sound and All Def. I want to open the floor up. I'm looking at the questions on the side. If you guys have any questions, now's the time. I want to read off the questions and answer these questions directly. So I'm gonna open up the floor. Alicia Howard, I know you've been asking a lot of questions. Love it. I'm glad you like it. I give thanks to the talk. This is Derek Estep. Everyone, once again, the floor is open. Elijah Carter, you've been very vocal over here.
Hey Jay, I got a whole list. If you go look at the Q&A section right there in the Zoom, man, it's like 18 questions in here.
Oh, so all right, let's get to it. Let's get to it. So let's look at Anthony Todd. Anthony Todd says, if you had to start over today in the current business environment, what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur needing funding? Would you bootstrap or seek out investor funding? Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a good question.
Anthony know what he's talking about right there.
We should have kept this. We should have kept this section closed, bro. These are some hard questions in here. I mean, Anthony, I don't know, Jay, you want to answer first? Or you want me give my shot at it?
Okay, cool. Let me say this again. If you want to start over today in the current business environment, what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur needing funding? Would you bootstrap or seek out investor funding? Me personally, I'm the guy that I've always believed in gaining traction before asking. You know, I'm the guy that I've always bootstrapped and invested a little something in myself and, you know, displayed traction. And then when I had the funding conversation, now I'm not really begging. Now it's one of those things where it's like, you see how this works, you know, for real. So personally, I feel like if you do not have funding in this current climate, you better get to work and build something so that you can run out and get some funding at the right time. But this is probably the worst time for a new company to try to go out and get funding in any space, asking for any bit of money if you don't have a lot of skin in the game. I'll let you.
Yeah, I just gonna cut right to I like giving the hard truth, bro. You ain't
Yeah.
raising no money right now. That's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's why I'm answering your question with the whole caveat in this environment. You know, if in this environment, you're not gonna be able to raise much money, unfortunately. And even if it wasn't in this environment, I agree 100% with Jason. Like I've always, you know, even given our relationship, you know, Jason and I, man, we were talking early about what I wanted to do with Culture Genesis. And I can be honest with you, man, I kept talking to Jason Tip and we talking. I was like, man, fuck it. I'm just finally I just do it. And so we started it and got traction. And then I came back to those dudes with traction and they were like, oh shit, said, okay, let's talk. You know?
Perfect example. Let's talk about that, right? So I knew said, we spoke about a concept that he had on. We didn't jump fast enough. You know, I have a tech syndicate that we all put money in together and raise. Me and Tip were the biggest funders of that syndicate, though. Like, but at the end of the day, he had a concept, came to us, talked about it, and pitched it. Went out, came back, had other people that had put money into it. So that also creates urgency as well, right? Once you see somebody else is a part of it and they're going to be helping fight for it and work for it, so it just increases the return on your investment. So I think in general, the bottom line is in today's climate, no, we're not trying to get no money. We're just going to put some money up in ourselves and get out here and get to it. I'm going to go to the next question. Miles Jackson, what advice would you give up and coming entrepreneurs?
You know, my father told me this, Jay, and you know, he passed away recently, but he told me, he said, you know what? Work hard and never give up.
Yep. Boom. All right. There you go. Right there. Nigel Smith, next question. What are the building blocks of executing a successful crowdfunding campaign for an app that is in its beginning stages?
I mean, I'll be honest with you on crowdfunding. Like, I've never done it. You know, not to say that it can't work for you, but I mean, I think like, you know, it goes back to actually the first question. Like if you have something that's actually good, you can bootstrap it. And you can do it even while you may have a full-time gig, you know, still working on it part-time in the beginning, build it a little bit. And then you want to like test it with the market. And if you test it with the market, you should be able to build traction. But if you gotta get capital for whatever you're doing, I mean, crowdfunding can work, I think, but it starts with you having a clear vision of what you want to do. It goes back to those 4 bullets I said before. I'll leave it at that. What's your market? Is it big? Do you have a product? Does the product have traction? And who's your team? Those 4 pieces, we should maybe write that up, Jay, and put that out. But like, those are the 4 things that every investor, I don't care who they are, where they are, those are the 4 things they look for. So if you can put that together, then that helps you with a crowdfunding campaign too. Because, you know, at the end of the day, people are looking for, you know, I think in the crowdfunding, the other thing that's really big too is you got to have a good story. You got to tell
a good story. Got to tell a good story. And I was going to suggest to Nigel Smith, who asked this question about crowdfunding, I would suggest going on Instagram and following Dawn Dixon, because I think that Dawn has done a really good job with crowdfunding and starting with an authentic story and really just kind of enhancing the streets for real, in a hip hop way for real. Like, you know, like doing radio and just kind of rallying the troops. So check out Dawn Dixon. She's a Black female entrepreneur that's been crowdfunding and raising money, you know, so I think you can learn some stuff from just checking her out as well, you know.
Hey, that's somebody who got it out of the mud. Getting out of the mud. She getting
got out of the mud. Absolutely, man. I salute her for real.
Talk to her.
I salute her. So next, I have an anonymous attendee says, Young Pharaoh is the GOAT. All right, cool. That's great. Young Pharaoh, big ups to you. Derek Estep, any thoughts on how to overcome obstacles that entrepreneurs face?
Man, there's so many obstacles, bro.
Yeah, that's like a loaded gun right there.
That's loaded gun. finding other entrepreneurs to talk to about it first of all. That's probably one of your best.
That's probably the best answer right there. I think leaving it at that, right? Like finding other people to speak to, and finding networks and groups to be part of, like the Heavy Crew right here. So stay tuned to the Heavy Crew. Keep talking in Slack. Everyone, once again, too, we have the Slack channel, Heavy Crew members. We have like over 400 people in the Slack channel right now. You guys should go in, start conversations. You know, I know that we can promote things, but really the thought behind the Slack channel is just for it to be a network, a community, so we can talk, we can support each other, we can bounce ideas off each other, and just share knowledge with each other, and really just kind of help each other grow, you know? So I'm gonna go down to another question. Alicia Howard. Okay, that's cool. Alicia, you've been active here. How did you find the people for tech purpose? How do you find the people for tech purposes? How do you get funding for the process?
So, you know, I will say that, you know, for me, I've always been one of the tech people on my team. You know, I think that's important to kind of like, you don't need to learn how to code. I'm not saying that everybody doesn't need to learn how to code, but I think you do need to learn like what the tech game is about, learn, you know, the building process. If anything, you should still know how to be almost like a project manager or a product manager of whatever it is you're trying to build. Like, I don't need you to write the code, but I need you to understand a lot about it. And the reason why is because, you know, contractors and all these other people out here, man, they'll rape you, you know, and if you don't know enough, then you're just susceptible to all those things. And when you actually take your time and become your own product manager, what happens is you start running into tech people and you start to understand and network with them. And those people will respect you much more for like, okay, yeah, like they're passionate about this product. They understand what they want to do. Yes, I want to work I want to work alongside them, because I'm gonna be real with you. Tech people are hard to get. You know what I mean? They're just hard to get because they're in high demand. So you got to bring something, you know, original. And the best thing you can bring is your passion, is your purpose. And that is reflected in how you look at your product.
Correct. So any closing remarks for you, Said, man? I know, unfortunately, guys, I apologize. We kind of ran over. I had some issues today, technical difficulties, but I have to run myself to go to another Zoom call and celebrate life over there with my family.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So any closing remarks you have, Said?
I'll say this, that anybody can find me. I see there's some really good questions in here. There's some that are even relevant to All Def, like about All Def poetry and all these other things. I don't mind kind of like helping, you know, I don't mind answering questions. You'll see that I'm kind of open to that. You can find me, just first and foremost, everything that I have is always just my name, Cedric, Cedric J. Rogers, Rogers. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, everything, wherever you want to find me is always the same thing. And I would say that's actually a thing you want to do too. It goes back to branding, you know, consistency is key to branding.
Gotta be the same thing. Be the same thing everywhere if possible, you know. I just signed on to Twitch last night under Jason Jeter, you know.
Okay. Oh, we got JG on Twitter or Twitch.
On Twitch. I'm on Twitch, you know. So that's the other thing too, right? You have to be consistent with your name everywhere, right? So now that means you have to be early there, right? You can't be late. You can't say, oh, I know about TikTok and I wait because somebody else is gonna get your handle and now you're gonna be on the tail end. So I would suggest that if you guys are now on Twitch, go to Twitch, get on it, just reserve your name, play around with it, see what it is, because it's the next wave is coming up. Heavy Talks, we're going to be broadcasting through Twitch as well starting next week. We're going to be expanding this talk. We're going to be expanding Soundcheck, which happens every Tuesday night. We're going to be broadcasting live through All Def, through Heavy Sound, and all of these just, you know, resources that we have there for us. And everyone, my Instagram page is at Jason Jeter. I'm at Jason Jeter on Twitter. Cedric just gave you his information. Some of these questions that we didn't answer, if you guys want to hit us up individually, again, apologize, but it's kind of got to run, and you know, and I look forward to next week.
Yeah, man, Jason, thanks for having me on, bro. Enjoyed it. For everyone out there, Hey, listen, this is dope. You know, you gotta, this is, you know, yeah, hey, Jay, you remember Teen Summit back in the day?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, you dropping
Absolutely.
knowledge like that, bro. So
Yeah.
Saturday, get up on Saturday mornings and get some knowledge, you know,
Yep.
through the
Yep.
Heavy Sound Talks. So like this is dope. And like I said, y'all will be supporting it. As Jason
Appreciate
said,
you, man.
y'all will see it on our channels as well.
You
Good to
must
see
have
you,
flashed
bro.
your sign. Like you must have flashed your sign or something. I see somebody talking about Noop on the side. I'm like, what
Oh
happened?
man,
I didn't even
listen,
say you must have flashed your gang sign or something, man. I don't know.
Nah, I didn't do nothing. I ain't throw nothing out there, man. Hey, they must have went to the Instagram or something real fast. And
Yeah,
for
I'm
all
like,
those
man,
who know, yeah, I'm definitely a
secret
member
society, man.
of the, yeah, you know how it go, Jay. I'm in that North Carolina A&T, and of course I'm a member of Alpha. I'm a Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity
Oh
Incorporated as
man,
well.
you got it mixed
all
up.
that,
Oh,
all
you got
that.
it backwards.
Yeah, right. I almost saw. I see there's an alpha in here. I see there's an alpha. I saw a gorilla square running across
Yeah,
the
so
street.
you had it
I was
right.
like, nah, I saw it. I saw him. Some
Yo,
alpha in
yo,
here,
yo,
man.
yo. I'm a member of School of
Me
Hard
Phi Me.
Knocks, you know what I'm saying? Not even me for me, man. Us for us, you know.
Okay,
Gotta
all
make
right.
it happen, all of that, you know. So for all of the guys who are not in fraternity, ladies not in sororities, we are members of the heavy crew, you know, and we're gonna get there together. All right. All right.
All right.
So yo, thanks
Hey,
for your
bro, it's good to
time,
see
bro.
you, bro.
Appreciate
All right, take care,
everyone.
man.
We'll see you guys Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. for the sound check, which will be on the Heavy Sound Labs Instagram page. Will be on YouTube as well. Next Saturday, Heavy Talks, same time, same place, 4 o'clock. We're working every week to make the stage better. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Be safe. Stay healthy.